Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and if you're interested now, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to try and do is we're going to actually try and post 2 videos out daily, because this is covering all of the important people in Chris's life. So there's going to be a little bit more or slightly less to talk about with these, but because so many of these articles are going to be ranging from what we do know to what we think we have a good idea about, but there's some more clarification in store, that's sort of where we're going from. So, continuing on, we start with Joshua Martinez. Josh can't stand him, but Chris is always trying to hang out with him. I think Josh is the one man his age that he can stand being around. Until we sort of knew what happened. This is Pod Monkey, by the way, a troll that knew Chris and the Jerkops in real life. Joshua Martinez was an old friend of Chris who he met at James Madison University, as they both attended speech therapy together. After Chris stopped attending speech therapy, they remained as acquaintances, occasionally meeting up. In 2007, after discovering Chris's internet infamy, he became an early troll, pretending to be a woman named Lori Lopez, which made him first person to ever catfish Chris. He came back in 2009 with a much more ambitious trolling plan, when he pretended to be Vanessa Hudgens, trying to get Chris to cheat on Ivy. This would be foiled by Rocky Shoemaker, who was planning to go to the police about all this. Unsurprisingly, Josh disappeared from the trolling scene after this and has never been heard from again. No real surprise, so let's just get into this. Relationship with Chris. According to Chris, Josh lived in Dyke, a rural community west of Ruckersville. They carpooled to James Madison University in Harrisonburg for speech therapy when they were children. Josh had to attend speech therapy because of his thick Spanish accent. While in Harrisonburg, they would play at Purcell Park and on the abandoned airplane nearby, an experience Chris would fondly remember years later in his video, A Browsing Around an Old Playground. Chris considers Josh his second closest friend after Sarah Hammer. After Chris finished high school and returned to Ruckersville in the year 2000, he and Josh apparently reconnected. They hung out at restaurants including TGI Fridays and Country Cookin', where Chris would usually pay the bill for both of them. On one occasion, Chris had no money for food, so Josh paid for his own meal and ate while Chris looked on in envy. I wish that I was making that up, but you want to know why? Well, you're going to find out very, very shortly. Lori Lopez. Lori Lopez is a non-existent boyfriend-free girl whom Joshua Martinez created in order to troll Chris. In an email to Anna on the 5th of September 2007, Chris revealed Lori for the first time. Joshua found a gal who was interested in me, after reading about me in my MySpace profile at least. Her name is Lori Lopez. I chatted with her through AOL Instant Messenger last night. She was really sweet, but not only did I have a great time getting to know her, but blush, I got turned on. I know that she works at a car lot, I think. She is 23, brunette, brown eyes, and she is a mix of American and Spanish. If you watch the movie Into the Blue, and starring woman Jessica Alba, is an American-Spanish mix as well. I'm keeping the sweetheart search details on my profile until I know for certain that Lori is really to be my sweetheart. On the 18th of November, Chris sent the following image to Megan. This is Lori, the girl my buddy Joshua is hooking up with me. She had it done at JMU. That's why it has her name on it. The image of Lori is actually an image of Vanessa Hudgens, and the name Vanessa is even written on the image of Lori. Don't know exactly how Chris could have misread that. This was likely an inspiration for Josh's next trolling scheme, 2 years later when he impersonated Vanessa directly. Chris and Lori's relationship ended when Lori confessed that she was in love with Josh instead of him. Chris's counterattacks. After Chris discovered he had become a lolcow, he tried diverting the attention from himself to Joshua with gems like the following edit to his ED page. Since Chris was still on the belief that trolls went after him because he was so amazing and talented at the time, the reasoning he gives for the unknowable hordes of the internet to descend upon Joshua amount to a weird ramble about how successful in life and sex Josh is. Look, pal, if you really want to take me down, someone who has a reputation, consider a one Joshua Martinez. Ladies come a-running from at least as far as New York City to his house in Dyke, Virginia. Not just any ladies, but stars like Megan Fox, Jessica Alba, Jessica Biel, Jessica Simpson, and plenty other whores. He also has been piggybacking on the stardom of Vanessa Hudgens, singing with her in her Latino albums, and starring with her in various HBO movies, and even worse, Transformers 2. He has and some other gal named Brittany for both his stimulus girlfriends. Dual marriage in the works here. He's a more lucky SOB than I can ever surmount to. Ruin his reputation. Joshua Martinez. P.S. You did not hear this whole thing from me. So, quick question: if Chris was under the impression that Joshua was going into dual marriage, then why did Chris not think there was like anything strange when there's like no news about this sort of thing, or why there was never any like tabloid press about this sort of thing? Because you would imagine something like a dual marriage would be something that, on a slow news day, they'll be standing outside the door in Dyke to know about. Also, this stupid thing about you didn't hear it from me. Like, who else are we meant to hear it from then? Chris thanking Josh for saving him $22.49 for a Nintendo Wii. Whatever that means. Vanessa Hudgens. In early 2009, Josh served as a sort of Eastern Front for the trolling war on Chris, as he impersonated Vanessa Hudgens. The trolling culminated in Josh attempting to sell a special PSP to Chris intended for Vanessa. He was foiled when trolls suspected that Josh was doing so for personal gain and not simply for the lulz. Josh isn't exactly too bright either. See the Vanessa chats for ample evidence of his limited imagination and clumsy attempts to manipulate Chris. Despite the fact that Chris fell for this anyway. And Chris's dalliances with Vanessa were also interfering with the success of Ivy. Josh's involvement ended and Chris cancelled the check for the PSP according to Ivy's instructions. Yet Chris refused to return it because Vanessa would be upset. It was a knockdown, drag-out case of blank versus blank. Or stupid person versus stupid person. Chris's parents were furious at Josh and actually went to the police in an attempt to bring him in for conning Chris out of his cash. However, during that very visit, Bob and Barb had also found out that Chris was stealing money from them as well, prompting Bob to deny police assistance for fear that Chris could be implicated. He instead announced his intention to take Josh to small claims courts, but it's unknown what, if anything, came of this. This visit also saw Rocky Shoemaker get involved to investigate the trolls against Bob and Barb's wishes, ultimately ending the Ivy operation alongside the Vanessa operation. The Vanessa AIM chats were leaked after Josh gave them to the Quickie editor Robotnik, which apparently didn't take much convincing it to do. After the threat of police, Joshua, unsurprisingly, completely stopped trolling Chris or interacting with him in any form. As such, his role in Christry is considered to have ended. Yeah, and well, that's roughly about it. Now, again, I mentioned the thing about the restaurant thing from earlier. Apparently, during the whole thing regarding Vanessa Hudgens and Ivy, because Chris continued to go back and forth between Ivy and Vanessa apparently told Chris that the only way to make it up to her was to take Joshua Martinez out for expensive meals and for him to pay for both of them. And like I said, when there came a situation where Chris was flat broke, the only arrangement they could make was that Joshua eat whilst Chris simply just looked on. And that, as they say, was that. A fairly nasty piece of work who simply used his position to gain something out of Chris because, well, Chris was so unbelievably easy to fool even during the early days, until, of course, it went too far, even for the early days. And with that being said, I cannot wait to talk to you guys again in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye for now.